Okay. Is it hello? Let's add a window. Preview mode. Let's add a window for the video. And then we put here. Okay, let's go with it. Okay, so Nuxt 4 is here. First of all, let me start by saying that I don't even know how I'm streaming to X. How does that even work? I don't even know how that works. Hey, that's so funny. Can I share that? That is too funny. That's too funny. Okay, let's see what's out here. I have a very simple application here running on 43,000. I'm trying Nuxt UI and I'm trying Stripe. No big deal. Just a simple app. But it's with the most of the stuff I always use. Tailwind CSS mainly. We've got also, what do we have here? Modules. We've got this is so good. UI Pro, icon, color mode, Tailwind CSS, UI, Pinia, Stripe Next, image. That's about it. So it's a simple project. Yet, let's see how it does. Okay, we've got here upgrade guide, latest. Testing notes for. Should we actually do this or follow the video? It's past June 14th, so it's not. Let's follow the video first, maybe. Let's see if we're up to date. NPX. It doesn't work here. It never does works, but I think I'm on the latest version. Yeah. The latest version. Let's see what the video says.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another video on this channel, and yes, the mic is here, the sound is better I hope, write it in the comments if not. And today we will have a look at the new improved directory structure of Nuxt 4, why it is there, how to migrate over, and can you keep the old one? All these answers right now, here we go. Yes, Nuxt 4 is taking more and more shape, and I hope you're not afraid of the migration because, well, I'm not, lots of people around me are not, because it will just be a few tiny breaking changes, nothing as big as Nuxt 2.
I can't say I'm not afraid.
Don't worry, and you can opt into them already, as I've shown you in the video.
Migration from Nuxt 2 is being very, very hard. In fact, many projects you just can't do it because of dependencies, so it's pretty much been starting over. You really can't migrate a complex project, Nuxt 2 to Nuxt 3 or Vue 2 to Nuxt 3. It could be easy, but if you have some plugin, for example, Bootstrap, I don't think it's yet. Or we had, for example, Beautify, that was very late in the migration to Vue 3. So everything you had with Beautify in Vue 2, we're pretty much stuck with. So
a few weeks ago, link as usual, you know, in the description, up there, you'll see it. And today we have a look at the new directory structure that Nuxt 4 brings with it. So like, why is it there? Why did the Nuxt team decide to change things up? The benefits of it, and whether you can keep the old one or not. And for this, we will just migrate the application from the last video about dynamic rendering, also there, link around, which was based on the Nuxt SPA application from 2 weeks ago. And we'll see how we go forward migrating to new directory structure. So let's jump into demo application and have a look. As usual, the demo application is, well, I would say pretty minimal, but there are a few things. We have our Nuxt config, then we have some things in server here, as shown in the last video, and some pages here. If you haven't watched the last video, not interested in dynamic rendering, don't worry, that's not a problem. This is just a very good example to see how we migrate things over. Okay. And we start with the most important thing. First, we want to check if we are Nuxt 3.12 or higher. Well, so Nuxt 4 probably, but no, 3.12 is required. Otherwise, you have to use the nightly mode, and we can just use pnpmy Nuxt here to figure it out. And it says Nuxt 3.12, so we're good. Now, we can start the server as usual, pnpm-dev or whatever package manager you use, and it will just start 3.12. So now we want to opt into the changes, as I've shown you a couple weeks ago, by basically... So now we want to opt into the changes, as I've shown you a couple weeks ago, by basically saying, okay, we set the future object in here, want to set a flag, which is the compatibility version. We set that to 4 as an integer.
These are test
and then
APIs,
here we
so
also have the validation of that running with compatibility version 4. And now we can opt
test APIs, they're not real. Okay, compatibility. Okay.
into the new directory structure. But you see, well, or you don't see, right? There's no arrows throwing around saying, hey, you're doing things wrong, there's a new structure. Well, mainly because we make sure that you can keep your old projects without straight away migrating. You don't have to adapt to the new structure. So if we see, okay, we have, like we did here, a top level pages folder, that's not a problem if we just fall back to the old structure. But of course, we want to migrate and see what the new structure brings us, so let's do that. The first thing we want to do is we want to create a new folder called app. So all our Nuxt specific things.
Let's see if that's true. Okay. Okay, so far. So good. This is actually good. Let's keep going.
They will live in this app folder here, which means components, which we don't have here, but also the pages folder that will live in the app. So now we have an app, pages, and then users, for example. The first thing we want to do is we want to create a new folder called app. So
let's go for it. Right there.
all our Nuxt specific things, they will live in this app folder here, which means components, which we don't have here, but also the pages folder that will live in the app. So now we have an app, pages, and
so let's move there. Pages goes to app. Layout goes to app. Stores goes to app. It is goes to app. I don't know. Types goes to app. Public.
and then users, for example, and so on and so on. And technically, if you have a components folder, that would also live in here, components, and we have another component, say my component.view, that will be exactly in here too. And same for all the other things, right? Like middleware, layouts, and so on and so on. And if you'd have an app.view, that would also live in the app folder. So this might be a bit strange, like app/app.view, but well, naming things is hard, and there was a whole RFC to think about a better or more suitable name, but eventually we all came down to that. Maybe let's have a look at the RFC real quick, created by Sebastian already in March, discussing about some options, and there were quite a few comments around
this will actually be indexed, no?
some suggestions, but yeah, eventually we also internally thought about like UI, web, front end, view, but it's really tricky because we don't want to say, okay, this is only the front end part, because it's also not really true. So it's more like, you could also say Nuxt and Nitro, but that also feels too much naming in the end. So I think app was the best name of these there, which is also why we decided for that. But if you say, yeah, okay, maybe there's a better way, better naming, you have some internal structures you don't want to change, then you can go for it. Once again, we are really all up to the freedom of choice while giving really good defaults. So, okay, now we have that app folder, or in this case, my fancy app. The question is, what might not belong into that? And are there any other folders to consider? Let's check. So there actually...
Let me think here. Can the app.view in Okay, I'm not sure if I am still live or what's going on. Okay, I'm still live. So that would make sense to me.
The question is, what might not belong into that? And are there any other up and running? We quickly refresh in the browser and we will see, yes, it is still here, we're naming things and so on. Then you can do this, just name it my fancy app. And then in your Nuxt config, you decide in here, we have a source tier option. And that's basically pointing to the right. And I always recommend to stick with the recommendations unless you... So, okay, now we have that app folder, or in this case, my fancy app. The question is, what might not belong into that? And are there any other folders to consider? Let's check. So there are actually a few things to consider here, because first, the server folder, I never moved out, because that's one of the big things when it comes to the new structure. We have our Nuxt and more front-oriented part, and then the server part, which consists your API routes, server routes, Nitro middleware, for example, Nitro plugins, and so on and so on. And the idea is to have them in two separate folders because, oh well, there's a bunch of reasons. First, it is really nice to separate the actual front-end part from the server part, as in types, global available things. So we can also give you an easier guidance when you maybe accidentally import things from the server that you, well, better shouldn't. Or say like, oh, all these composables might not be available on the server because you shouldn't use view composables on the server side. That's also what I've shown you in the Nuxt versus Nitro video, linked you know where. But it's very important, and of course this was always a little area of friction by people not 100% understanding which part is which, like the server part, but also server rendering, which happens in the front end part. It's all explained in the video. And with the directory structure, it should also be easier. And there's another thing, which is performance, because if you watch a folder, let's say the whole project root, then you have to watch all the single files of all the nested folders. So your whole .git folder, I hope you use Git, right? And the node modules as well. So while on Linux and Mac, this harmony works pretty well. On Windows, this, well, didn't go that great. And there were some severe performance issues during dev. Not during like production and build, because FileWatch is only there during dev. But if you don't have a nice dev experience, yeah, your daily work will result in pain, and we don't want that. So that's why we suggest to change that, and we have one folder usually called app and one folder called server, and they're separate. But there's more. As mentioned, there are top-level folders that will stay. So one of them is, for example, public. So if we had a public.test.txt and just write my test, okay, why not? In here, then the public folder, as it has been before with Nuxt, it will just stay straight away mapped to the domain root. So if you just write localhost 3000/test.txt in the browser here, we see, okay, write my test, here we go, it's existing. So the public folder, because it is, well, not really belonging to the Nuxt part, nor the Nitro part, so not the server, nor the front-end-ish part, well, it makes sense to stay on top, right? And also, nobody stops you from creating more folders on tops, or put, for example, your types also on tops that apply to both the server and the front-end part of the app part. So you're also free to create folders wherever you want to have them. But there's more. So
I think so too. I mean, I think types should actually go outside, which is a good thing. Better idea. that makes a lot more sense to me. Anyways. Yeah. So is this it? It's all you need to do? So if we go, so no changes, npm dev.
So there's one more folder for sure that some of you maybe know already, which is the modules folder. So what Nuxt is doing, it can automatically register modules in a modules folder that also works in Nuxt 3 right now without any compatibility flag. And that folder, because it's also can be rated to both, right? You can add server middleware like Nitro things in a module, also Nuxt things. It's also on top, so top level. And there's one more folder, that's a new one, only possible with Nuxt 4, the compatibility flag is shown, which is the layers folder. So layers, you might have heard of them. If not, then please, well, have a look at my layers beginner guide, also a video recorded quite recently, where I show you why it's useful. And the idea is more or less to extract parts of an application into own mini applications, or the other way around, right? Like have a base application and then build applications on top to white label them, or to have different designs and so on and so on. Lots of use cases, also great for domain-driven design. That's all possible now from a simple layers folder as a start. So let's have a look how that exactly works. In the application here, we can just create a layers folder, and in there we can, for example, create my awesome layer. And let's say, okay, what do we want to add here?
I know a layer.
We want to add a Nuxt config.ts maybe. We say really easy.
Checking it.
Okay, and there's one more thing to do. Yeah, one more thing, which is having a look on the official upgrade guide for Nuxt 4, where also the directory structure is mentioned, and to see what else is in there. And of course, the link for this and all of that is in the description as usual. And here we have the migrating to Nuxt 4, and the first one is the new directory structure, as the impact level is significant. Even though you don't have to use it, it's recommended, it's really worth it. The RFC link is what we've seen before, so Sebastian's post back then, and it's basically what we've just discussed. The source directory, which you could have already set in Nuxt 3 actually, is now called app. You can call it source if you want to, or what as we did with my fancy app, right? Modules and public are in the root directory. The root directory is also a thing already, right? And then we have this app folder. Very interestingly, now you might wonder,
Okay, guide, future component, yes. Okay. On your code in the root. Assets, component, plugins, utils, error. It's not required.
yeah, okay, but the app folder, maybe I already have an app folder in my Nuxt application. How does that relate to the new app folder? Is it the same? How does it work? So let's have a little example there. And as an easy example, I just used the website that I built myself. It's also fully open source. And there I have an app folder, but that's not related to the new app source directory because, well, 7 months ago, that wasn't really a thing. So let's have a look. Because commonly in the app folder, you either have your router options.ts or an SPA loading template. And, well, these are commonly either to change, as the file name says, the router options of your router, like scroll behavior, or maybe adding custom routes, define things for subdomains, and so on, so on. So that's what router option test is commonly used for, if you have any. In the SPA loading template, if you build
But
an
I'm not
SPA and want a different loading spinner to mention. And if you're not using auto imports right now in your Nuxt application, but you use aliases like the tilde alias or the @ then you might have to change these aliases now when you import things. Mainly because before you might have pointed things to the source directory with just one tilde, and now source directory and root directory are not the same anymore. Before, the double tilde or double @ and the single tilde or single @ they were all pointing to the same thing, to your project root. But now they point, well, double one still to a project root, and the single one to your app folder or however you name it. Which means you might have to rename things. If you, for example, import a type from a top-level folder, you might have to use the double tilde or double @ alias. But I think that's the biggest caveat, and you will definitely notice it because either your IDE or your type checks or your app will scream at you saying, hey, I can't find that file. What's wrong during build? So you definitely won't miss that. And besides that, I really think that's it. That's all about the new improved directory structure. As I mentioned before, you don't have to opt in straight away, but I would highly recommend you to do so, mainly to get the sweet performance gains during dev mode, the IDE type safety, and also for type checks. And well, that's just the start, right? Like with this split up structure, we maybe do a few more things here and there. But as mentioned, you can do it whenever you feel like. You can rename things as you want. And there's even a bigger migration guide in the upgrade guide on nuxt.com showing you exactly, okay, take.
Let's see what it says here. Share parental data, impact medium, what happened, we enable previous features of data, resources change. What does that say? Hello? What does that mean? Uke freaky. What does that even mean? Is this like a... I don't even know what that means. I don't know what that means. You freaky. I don't know. So it's pretty easy. The few problems I've had is about the alias, and now it's working. Let's see. Now, can I install modules? That's the thing. Now here we are in the website with Nuxt 4. With Nuxt 4, turn your vision into reality. What was that about? Now, I wonder what would happen if I try to install something. I wonder what will happen if I try to install Google Chrome, and here we go to so what happens if I go here and try to install a module? I want to install a module. Can I add new module? and I just install it. I'm not sure this is gonna work. You see that? It's not so easy. Almost seems like it's working, but I can't really tell. Well, I have to test it some more. At least it is compatible, seems to be compatible with existing stuff. I'll have to, yeah, it's looking weird. And need to try it with some of the regular tools they actually installed. No, that did not work. Installing, that did not work. We'll have to see why. View use, can I install view use? That seemed to work. Okay, so that's it. You can install plugins. Well, let's hope the migration goes like that. That was very, very easy to do. I think I'm having some internet connection problems because it's really slow. Okay, this will be it. I know why it's slow. Bye bye.